Going live. We're going live. We are live. We are live on the internet. Live. We are live. We are live on the internet. Hello, internet. Hello, internet. This is the show with no name coming to you straight out of the lateral. My name is Herms. I need to shave. You can follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL. I do a ton of different stuff, including this a show where we talk about fake sports, namely fantasy football. Yeah, I also have a co-host, and he's right there. So say hello.
Yeah, what up? I got a haircut, so yeah, probably should shave soon as well. But yeah, I'm Jesse, and my Twitter handle is at Big Games Jesse. Find me there. I do this and other stuff, and I'm excited to get to talk about fantasy football today and football in general. So, what's up, Pat?
Hey, Herms and Jesse. Good to be on with you guys. I did shave. I'm not sure why on a Sunday. That's not usually the procedure, but hey, I'm well groomed for the show and anxious to talk with you guys.
Hell yeah! Oh, here it is. Oh, gotta retweet the link so that it appears on my page, which I just did it. Look at me. Hell yeah, promoting. This is fabulous. Oh man, dude, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you again, Pat, because I know we had our little run in on the baseball show with the Rum Boys Fantasy Network, and I do love baseball. Don't get me wrong, but my passion in life, actually, well, I'm not going to lie to the public. My number one passion in life for a long time was baseball. It's my first love. I will always love it to death. I mean, I got my Washington Nationals tattoo, and unfortunately, I have to co-host the show with a Mets fan. So
Oh God. Okay.
It is what it is. It's
True.
fine. But hey, at least one of us had a World Series title to see in the last however many years. So I don't think I've ever roasted you on that before. So here we go.
No,
for everything.
Yeah. Okay. This is a fun way to start off the show. I'm really excited. Super pumped. Yeah, baseball, it exists. Cool.
What a way to start this. I am so good at this, aren't I? But yeah, so that's a thing. Pat, you also like baseball, right? We'll just start off just naming teams that we like and stuff. So baseball, because I already mentioned baseball, and then I listen to your podcast. I already know what teams you root for, but for people who don't know, who are you a fan of?
Yeah, so I'm a Brewers fan. So your Nats stepped over my Brewers to get to that World Series title a couple of years ago. Big Soto hit to cap a comeback. They were down in that game. It was very close to the Nats not even making it out of the wild card. So.
Oh yeah, man. I was able to attend a few of those games in the playoff run there, and I gotta say, like, being there for that wild card game is one of my favorite memories. And I gotta say, like, when Soto hit that ball and it went past like the right fielder or whatever, yeah, like I remember I didn't even see Soto run around second and then end up getting tagged out because I was so excited, screaming up into the air that my eyes were nowhere near the field. I was just like, they scored the run, and just like whatever happened in the next 30 seconds after, I have only seen in replay on television because like I was just so excited that they were able to like accomplish the goal of being able to get up. Like, I don't know. I lost my mind. It was absolutely just fabulous. But hey, I don't know. Maybe the Brewers will have their moment someday.
Yeah, I think it was understandable that you were so happy. I was crushed, but at least if you're going to lose like that, lose to an eventual World Series winner. So it was nice to see the Nats cash in.
If you're gonna lose to the eventual champion. I say that to myself all the time, especially like rooting for the Washington Capitals in hockey. Like for years and years, it was always just like, oh, screw the Penguins. But okay, I guess if they're gonna win, then it'll make us look better, right? And like, it kind of feels a little better. Like, there's not a whole lot you can do otherwise. But the mental gymnastics that you have to do just to level out the emotional state of that, like, it works. I definitely support that theory. But this is a show about football, and I know that you root for a team that's having itself a grand old time with a lot of fun stuff happening right now. So let's just do a little check-in with with you. How are things going in the football world?
Yeah, so the Aaron Rodgers stuff has gotten a little tiresome, but still hard to tell how it's going to shake out. I mean, I do think one thing that maybe people don't consider is that with the unique ownership structure of the Packers, and I mean, technically, even I am an owner, having gotten a stock certificate from my dad for a birthday long ago. But the general manager answers to the team president, who answers to an executive committee, which is part of like a 40-person board. So I don't think it's going to be a unilateral decision whether or not to trade Aaron Rodgers. I think it would have to go beyond Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, to team president Mark Murphy, and I think he would probably have to get a tacit okay from at least a majority of the 7-person executive committee. Well, actually, he might be the 7th, but I think he would need to get a little. There need to be an organizational sign off to say, okay, this trade offer is just too good, whatever it might be. If it would be the Broncos, I assume it'd be 2022 first, 2023 first, a couple of players, maybe Drew Lock coming back. How exciting would that be? But I think it's better than 50-50. They'll work it out, and then he'll play for the Packers this year.
It's a little dicey, and just because oh gosh, reading some of the tweets that come out from the the verified, the Adam Schefters and Ian Rappaports of the world, sometimes it's just oh, it feels uglier and uglier as time goes on, oh shit. But I don't know, I kind of felt like the prime opportunity they had to move on it was before the draft happened, but obviously the draft already happened. So especially because for a team like San Francisco, I mean if the news of this had come to light maybe even 5 days to a week sooner, maybe that number 3 pick would have been available to him. I don't know, but hey, what do I know? I'm not in these front offices. I'm not in these people's heads. I don't know. I'm just I'm playing hypotheticals for fun. But but hey, if you said you think there's a decent chance, more than a 50-50 shot that Aaron Rodgers stays, then I will operate under the assumption that Aaron Rodgers stays. So if you were to right now go ahead and just think about where he falls in your 2021 quarterback rankings, approximately where do you have Aaron Rodgers?
I think I've got him at either 8 or 9 right now. I think he's sandwiched in between Jalen Hurts and Justin Herbert. And I think most people would have that flipped around with Herbert instead of Hurts. I kind of go the opposite way on that. Just the running ability with Hurts and everything. I mean, Rodgers, I don't think the venue would change all that much, because if he leaves, the probable destination is Denver. Even if Jerry Jeudy were coming back in that deal, still would have a pretty attractive group of pass catchers with Sutton, Fant, KJ Hamler, Tim Patrick. So, yeah, I mean, I think either situation would be about the same. I think the harder guys to adjust based on this are Adams, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Robert Tonyan, who, might be a top 10 with Aaron Rodgers and might barely be draftable in a 12-team, 16-round draft without him. So, I mean, I've kind of hedged a little. I knocked Devontae Adams down from wide receiver 1 to wide receiver 3. I knocked Jones from running back 8 or 9, I think running back 13. I think you have to hedge a little bit right now if you're doing best ball drafts. Hopefully this will all get sorted by the time we get really deep into drafts in late July, early to mid-August. But for now it's kind of tricky.
Where are you at with it all, Jesse?
I have Rodgers number 7, so he's right behind Matt Stafford and right in front of Josh Allen. So that's where I got him. I think you're right though. Also, it's going to be tough to rank like Devonta Adams and other guys who are prominent on the offense with Rodgers. I think that's the real big one. It's crazy that we have two guys, Aaron Rodgers and also Deshaun Watson, guys from last year were top 5 guys that we don't really know what's going to happen to them this year. So it's definitely an interesting ranking system. I hope we get more clarity. I gotta feel like Green Bay has to do everything they can to hold on to him, and I gotta feel like that's the way he's going to stay there. But I mean, anything can happen, or I feel like anything can happen since like Le'Veon Bell left, and I know that's not directly correlated or anything like that, but I just for the longest time thought there's no way these guys can sit out. There's no way these guys will ever leave their teams for whatever it is. But after that, I kind of feel like anything's possible.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And hey, dude, worst case scenario, they brought in Blake Bortles. Okay, so I mean, if that's not a franchise changing move, then I don't know what is. So I mean, I think that would potentially go super well. And also a comment from the chat. Yes, people have told me that I remind them of Pete Davidson. I kind of get it, but also not really. But I don't know. Maybe we'll see. We'll see what other people have to say about that. If you feel like commenting as to whether or not you think I remind you of Pete Davidson, there it is. That's a thing that happened. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers still fairly high in my rankings, but at the same time, like, I don't know. I'm not super good at doing rankings. I gotta say, man, like rankings is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I like doing it. It's a fun exercise. It kind of, help gets your mind right in terms of how you're going to strategize and do all this stuff. But I wish there was somebody that we could talk to who is like really known for their skilled ranking. Somebody that like, if there was like a contest of some sort that like would prove that someone is really good. Oh, right. We got Pat. Oh, right.
Oh wait, we were talking about me. That wasn't me.
Oh, sorry, Jess. No. I mean, like, I know, yes, in terms of the lateral mini contest, I'm sure that you would come out very high on that, that list of 4. Yeah. But we have like the ranker of rankers of all rankers in the show. Oh, gee, what do you know? Oh, Pat, tell people, for those who don't know, about some of the things that you do with the ranking stuff, because it's super, super neat.
So yeah, I mean, last year was Fantasy Pros runs this annual contest for weekly rankings. They have a system to gauge accuracy, and after knocking on the door in a couple different seasons, I finally broke through and won last year. Skin of my teeth, but man, there are a lot of people who are good at this and maybe better than I am, probably better than I am. Guys like Justin Boone, Sean Corner, John Paulson. I still feel like I'm not on their level as a ranker, but it was fun to get my year in the sun, I guess. So
absolutely, man. But I figured this would be a very fun opportunity because anybody who creates fantasy football content, I mean, like we all have our own rankings, we all have our own process, but we can always stand to improve. And this is definitely an area where like I could improve. So let's say for all intents and purposes, I have never made rankings in my entire life, but I roll up in the building and I'm like, hey, I want to start ranking. What is a good first step to take when putting together rankings?
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of when you build your board. I mean, I just basically, if I'm doing draft rankings, I just kind of go through one team at a time and just sort of slot them like this guy or this guy, this guy or this guy. And I just build the board individually at every position. Now, I know some people do projections and they do their rankings based exclusively on the projections. I don't do that. I don't do projections. I do think they're useful in some regards, but for draft rankings, for instance, I'll give you an example. Like if I were to build my rankings based purely on projections, we've seen Gus Edwards run for like right around 725 yards for 3 straight seasons. So like his role is pretty predictable. The output is pretty predictable. And, if I'm doing an honest accounting of the rankings based on projections, I would have him ahead of someone like Javian Hawkins, who, Hawkins goes undrafted, but he's the only running back the Falcons add. And like the Falcons have this big screaming need for him, seemingly a really good setup with a pretty good offensive line, a good offense, and just this kind of veteran jobber Mike Davis in front of him. I mean, there's a chance for Javian Hawkins to win a majority share of that workload and be 1,000-yard back. If you're going to project that, I don't know if you can honestly project a 1,000-yard season for him, and you're probably going to have Mike Davis projecting higher. But because of that possibility, like I'm drafting Javian Hawkins over Gus Edwards 10 out of 10 times, and especially in like most of the leagues we all play in, Gus Edwards would just be like kind of an emergency fill-in guy. If you draft him, you're probably cutting him inside of 2 or 3 weeks for something, shiny and attractive. Whereas Hawkins, you don't mind waiting 2, 3, 4 weeks to see what materializes in Atlanta. Whereas, Gus, I mean, unless J.K. Dobbins goes down, and even then he's probably going to be sharing work with like Justice Hill. So I guess that's why I don't do projections and don't base my own rankings on projections. And that's just one example, but I mean, I can think of some other reasons like that why, I like sort of weighing in ceiling, floor, and I don't know if projections really, just doing these median projections doesn't leave room for some of the, probabilities.
That definitely makes sense. Jesse, it seemed like you had something.
Oh, wait, about Hawkins?
No, I don't know. No, you kind of like you made a face, and I was just like, oh, seems like Jesse wants to say something. But if not, I can make a comment.
Oh, no, I mean that was good. I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that was a pretty good point. I just don't I don't do for my rankings and stuff like that. I don't do projections either, mostly because I suck at them. I think so. It's just like not part of my process either. Yeah, I think they can be helpful for sure if you're good at it or know what you're doing with that. But yeah, I'm not, so I don't really use them too much. But yeah, just kind of rank them where I feel like these guys are good enough. Just I'm a big film guy, so I just kind of go off that,
Yeah, and like I do like I have a process where I like run projections kind of like in my head more or less. Like it's one of those things where like I can look at like the last 3 seasons of like a team's like rushing attempts or something, and then kind of like guess in my own head, okay, like this guy's probably going to share this much of the workload with this other guy and blah blah blah, so by virtue of their value here and here, I'll prefer this guy to that guy and all that, this, that, and the other, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I'm never going to be like, yes, this running back I predict will have like 267 carries for this number of yards and like 7.4 touchdowns, because I'm just like, look, I took algebra 2 3 times in high school. Do you really want projections from me? No, you really don't. But like, I think the point that Pat made that is like we're looking for probability, at the end of the day. Like, and that's especially as you get like deeper and deeper down the list at like every single position. Look, not every single position, but like the skill positions, like the running backs and the wide receivers. It's like, okay, yeah, like especially with wide receiver, actually, there's a point that I'm now going to make because it just popped into my head. Look at me, boom, transition. Like, I really prefer the receivers once we get past a certain range anyway. Like when we get down to the wide receiver 3s and the wide receiver 4s that are just like, oh, but like that guy could go off for a big play at any time. Like you really want to have that type of receiver on your team. And I'm just like, okay, cool. Like have like one of those dudes on your bench for sure. But if you load up with those type of like, it could be 4 for 125 and a score or 2 or nothing. I'll take the tiny guy that runs in the slot that maybe will never score more than 12 or 13 PPR points, but because of their role in their offense, their target share percentage is just enough that they will have that floor, and it will just work every single time. If you need like an emergency flex or something, or like if your wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 gets hurt and it's just like, oh geez, oh god, I'm really going to be hemorrhaging points. Okay, here's the Band-Aid. Boom. And then you just stick the Band-Aid in your lineup. Like, I feel like people really undervalue like how important a floor really is, because like, and I see it a lot when people make arguments about certain players. It's like, oh, well, I like that guy, but he kind of lacks upside. I'm like, okay, so where's the floor? It's like, oh, well, the floor's still pretty high. Oh, but he lacks the up. I'm like, okay, no. Go back to what you just said. Like, but the floor is good. Boom. There it is. Like, does that not matter to people anymore? Like, I don't know, Pat, like how do you kind of like weigh that in your own head in terms of like the importance of like, the floor and the ceiling and the whatnot and trying to figure out that whole mess?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very guilty of consistently, perennially underranking Jamison Crowder for that very reason. So I kind of I have that bias myself, whereas I know, you just look at Jamison Crowder and you're like, okay, this dude's not going to get 1,000 yards. He's got no chance to score 10 touchdowns. I want to aim higher. And, I always say that. And then I do wind up chasing guys who, don't pan out, the Christian Kirks or whatever. And and there's Jamison Crowder again with a 75 catch, 875 yard, 5 TD, perfectly usable, the exact kind of guy you're talking about. So, I can't say I'm especially wise there because I think I'm guilty of exactly the thing you're talking about, Herms.
Happens to the best of us.
I feel like once you get out of like, or at least wide receiver using that example, once you get like to a point where it's like outside the top 30, I feel like you kind of have to rank after that, like with the upside, just looking at most of the upside rather than the downside for that, right? Because I mean, at that point, you're looking for guys who, depending on how deep your league is, you might not really be starting, or just guys you might be able to drop in like 2 weeks if someone comes along that's better. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like once you get there, you have to like rank these guys with just how potentially good they could be. But I don't know. I was just also thinking about wide receiver, how deep it is this year. It is just, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if we want to talk about any of that stuff, but I have like up there, like my top 40. I feel like I like a lot of these guys so much. I don't know if that's relevant for anyone else or if anyone feels that way, but yeah.
Dude, it's completely irrelevant. This show is about fantasy football, and what you just said is about fantasy football. Of course it's relevant. And, and I think a little nugget of what you said about like, once you get past a certain point, like, I mean, like, yes, I mean, obviously, like, shoot for the upside, but like really like looking to identify like who could, like, there's always a couple dudes from like way out there that end up breaking through into like around the top 24 or something. And like, I don't know exactly how you identify those people, but it's something that I'm trying to get better at. Cause I know last year I did a very good job of picking up on the whole Deontay Johnson thing, but that's also because I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and I follow the team. So I can't really pat myself on the back for that because it's just like, well, I know the offense and I follow they're my favorite team. So like I can't really like, parade myself around for that and have a victory lap, but like I don't know, is there somebody outside of the top 36 that like either of you are like particularly enthusiastic about around this time as we sit here on May 16th? I mean, we'll start with you, Jesse, because you introduced it, and then we'll go down to Pat. But like, I don't know, anybody really popping off the paper for you?
I will say I also was pretty hot on James Robinson last year because I was also a Jaguars fan. So just another thing in there that I can't really give myself credit for, but I just was because my team was the one on him. I was big into I forget the other guy. He had COVID, or Rock Armstead, but when he was like on the list, it was whatever. Anyway, a guy that I think I'm talking about, I have Denzel Mims ranked 44th, and as I think most people in Lateral know, we're big Denzel Mims guys, but I couldn't find a way to get him any higher, and I'm just really, really excited about him. But yeah, there's a lot of guys here that I have around him, or around this spot, around like 44-ish. Like I have Antonio Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown there too. There's still a lot of guys that, man, there's just so much upside there. Like I still kind of want these guys, even though they're ranked like not a place where, you'd be targeting them, right? So there are a few guys,
True. Pat?
Yeah, well, I was worried that Jesse, being a Jaguars fan, was going to steal the guy I was thinking of when you brought this up, Laviska Shenault, who I think I've got just inside my top 40, but just outside of the top 36. I think just off the top of my head, I believe I've got him at wide receiver 39 right now. And like I think he could definitely finish top 25, having a real quarterback there. I know some people were a little alarmed at the news over the weekend that Travis Etienne was lining up at wide receiver in the rookie mini camp. Like, what are they doing? They're going to, they're wasting this good running back and devaluing Laviska Shenault. But, hopefully they're still going to, like Urban Meyer, a guy who has used dudes like Curtis Samuel and interesting and exotic ways. Hopefully he can get creative with Shenault this year, because that dude is just such a Swiss Army knife of skills. And like having a competent quarterback, I think, is going to make all the difference. Just going back to Visca's sophomore year at Colorado, like I just fell in love with that dude watching him. Like I would, Colorado wasn't particularly good, but I would just tune in to like see this guy play. I like wanted to see what he was going to do on the field. So I'm pretty excited about him, and he's kind of flying maybe a bit under the radar after kind of a disappointing rookie year. Oh man, who else was I just going to bring up? I'm drawing a big blank here.
If you come back to it.
Yeah.
Know. But in the meantime, we got a compliment on the Nordiques hat. It is a pretty cool hat, I gotta say. Shout out defunct NHL teams; those are my favorite. I also really like the Hartford Whalers gear. You know what I mean?
Yes,
I love that color scheme so much. The Canucks keep it alive. But it's not the same. It's not the same. The cool little tail logo and whatnot. Jeez.
Yeah, this was from a family trip. We were in Montreal and we just stopped in some little bodega to get gum or something like that. And I saw this sweet hat behind the counter, and I had to have it. So,
hell yeah, yeah. Because a huge chunk of the reason I actually became a Washington Nationals fan is because I live in the greater DC metro area, but at the same time, the only team that was here when I was a kid was the Orioles. And my parents aren't from the area originally. So I grew up with baseball, watching baseball, being a fan of baseball, playing this, that, the other. But I was never given a team to root for because I don't know, my father was just a very, very sad Pirates fan. And he was just I'm not going to subject you to this. So but my favorite player when I was a kid was Vladimir Guerrero Sr. I have to say that now. And, even though he didn't make the transition, because he ended up signing with the Angels, blah, blah, blah. For those of you who are interested in baseball, again, there it is, getting tied into the show randomly. I don't know. I already kind of liked the Expos. And, I had, a little Expos hat and all this other stuff. So I was like, oh, wait. The Expos are coming to where I live. Oh, cool. We'll get Jose Vidro and Christian Guzman. It'll be so much fun. And it was just yeah. So that was, I don't know what it is, man. Montreal sports teams, the ones that don't exist have the coolest merch. I got to say, they really do. They have that going for them. They live in our hearts and our brains forever. But yeah, man. Okay, football. Right. That was the thing. Oh, yes. Wide receivers.
We can talk about dinosaurs again. Can we do that too?
Oh, dude.
If we're just changing up the stuff, we can talk about whatever we want. Can we do dinosaurs more?
Oh, dude, we can definitely do dinosaurs more toward the end of the show. I will.
You want me to circle back to that other guy? I remember.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Yes.
So, I think a lot of people just don't believe the season Nelson Aguilar had last year was for real. And, now he's going to a team where he didn't necessarily get a big quarterback upgrade since, the Cam Newton-led passing game was just so inept for the Patriots last year. I don't know, man. For me, seeing is kind of believing. Aguilar just looked like a new guy last year. And there were always flashes of it, but it was just the untimely concentration drops just got him this horrible rep, basically it was a meme after the guy talking about catching babies in Philadelphia, unlike Aguilar. So I'm kind of buying in and he's not in some people's top 50. And if he goes, forgotten into the double-digit rounds, like I'd be happy to scoop him up as my wide receiver 4.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about it, and like, I don't know what's his name, Jacoby Myers. Like, he's pretty good. He's pretty good, but he's not like like a world beater or anything by any stretch of the imagination. And I know they also paid money to Kendrick Bourne, who like I
Kendrick
think
Bourne, yeah.
he's a
Not
decent
sure why,
player,
but yes,
but
he did.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still question it every day. And then the whole 2 tight end thing with the like, I don't know, are we trying to recapture the Gronk Hernandez thing? Like, because the bulk of what made that work was the guy throwing the ball, not and unfortunately, that guy not there anymore. I don't know if anybody heard about this, but he went down to Florida to play with the Pirate team, and they ended up doing really well, from what I understand. So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't really understand how that's going to work. Like, yeah, James White still around on the 1-year deal, but like, it's a really uninspiring group of people who are going to be catching the ball for the New England Patriots. But then, to your point, you look at it and you're like, well, Nelson Aguilar did have a pretty good year last year, and he was a former first round pick, if I remember correctly. And, like, there were times in Philadelphia, to your point, where it was like, there he is, there's the guy. Oh, finally. And then it would be like the next week, I spent all this fab money, and now it's just like, what are we doing? And just like constantly letting you down. But like, I remember even I was skeptical at times last year, because I was just like, there were, he did well for a couple games, and I was just like, working on like my waiver wire article that, we put out every week. And I would just be like, do I want to mention Nelson Aguilar? Nah, no, we'll wait another week. We'll see if it happens. But after a certain point, I was just like, okay, I have to write about Nelson Aguilar because like you couldn't be ignored after a certain point. It was like, he's usable. Wow,
Right.
You know what? I'm with you. I'm not even actually. Well, what am I saying? I have my rankings pulled up right in front of me right now. Oh yeah, I don't have him inside of my top 50. So you know what? I have been convinced this is something I should probably do, because I mean, some of these dudes that I have on the end of it, I mean, like, I have Amari Rogers like squeezed in right there at the tail end of it, just because, like, I don't know, you're probably the person to ask more than anybody else. Like, does the Randall Cobb role still exist, or is this something that we're saying exists because we want it to?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think it has not really existed that much in theory. Like, they've gone with the bigger slot guys. Like, they've given Lazard some slot reps, some Marquez Valdez-Scantling slot reps. They're taller dudes, the big slot thing. I think Rodgers pretty much has to be a slot guy. Like, that's what he does. Not a lot of outside experience, I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see it happen. There's some real compelling things in the tape of Rodgers, and I think he would be a pretty nice fit for Aaron Rodgers if these two crazy kids do in fact get together in training camp. So yeah, I mean, you're making that leap of faith that Aaron Rodgers will be coming back, I think, to put Amari Rodgers in your top 50, but I don't think it's crazy.
All right, thank God. No, and it's one of those things where like, I have him tentatively right there at the tail end of it, just because I am nervous about the small possibility that Aaron Rodgers is not there. Because like, if it's anybody besides Aaron Rodgers, especially who they already have on the roster, like, like what was said before, like, I will have to eventually move Devontae Adams down, because him being like the clear cut number one won't really be a thing, and through no fault of his own. I mean, he's incredibly talented, but like, even I can joke about Blake Bortles, but it's still Blake Bortles. And even then, if it's not him, then Jordan Love. I mean, like, I don't want to spend too much time dogging on that, but that's a thing. that could happen, and I have no idea how to feel about that. But I don't know. That's it's leaving a sour taste in my mouth.
Well, I do feel like
So-
we've been skirting around it though. Like how do we feel about Jordan Love? You know, like I was a big believer of him coming out of the draft. I liked him. He was a first round pick. I thought he was very talented. I mean, there is a possibility, like, you know, Pat, you mentioned it might be a 50-50 thing. I feel like we should talk about how we feel about Jordan Love, because I just like him. I mean, he's obviously not Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to pepper, you know, Devontae Adams with like 180 targets. So it's definitely going to be different, but I still like him as a player. I don't know, Pat, how you feel about him?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I did not get enough of a read on him in college. You know, just having not really watched him too much in college, I just don't find it possible to speak eloquently on his strengths and weaknesses. You know, I know it was pretty alarming that, like, they, you know, the team observers thought he had a pretty bad training camp last year and that, you know, really struggled with the accuracy. But then again, we saw Josh Allen have those kind of struggles in his early training camp. So, yeah, jury very much out. I don't know whether he's, you know, ready to start. If he were to get that call, could be really ugly, could be better than most people think. I'm not sure.
Oh boy. Oh, no,
It is a tough question for sure.
Yeah, no,
for
and
sure.
I remember, like, even in my very non-expert opinion, when I was looking at the quarterbacks from that class, I went back and forth in my head like a billion times, being like, okay, all right, I could see it. I get it. This is why people really dig this guy. And then, like, a couple days later, I'd be, you know, watching more and reading more, and I'd be like, oh, but what? But why is the why is he getting so much? I don't understand. Like, it completely boggles my mind. Like, honestly, like, kind of like, I don't know. It's kind of how I felt watching Zach Wilson this year, with the obvious exception being that Zach Wilson, I think, is like not like remarkably better or whatever, but just like there's a clear difference between Jordan Love and, you know, Zach. Like, you know what I mean? That kind of made sense. But either way, like, yeah, it could be weird, but, you know, I don't want to live in that world. I'm not ready yet. You know what I mean? Like, maybe 2022 we can live in that world. You know, but like, I don't. 2021 doesn't feel like a good year to get that going. You know what I mean? Like, we're just coming off of like so much terrible stuff. I mean, like, I don't know, the world's starting to open back up again. Things are, you know, like, live music is being performed at bars near where I live. Like, shit's about to be happy. Okay. You know what I mean? I don't want this to be ruined. You know, I don't want to have to think about, you know, like, just, oh God. And you're right, Jesse. We have been dancing around it because I'm not ready to talk about. Like, I like live, especially, okay, well, selfishly, like, my fantasy team of greatest, you know, emotional, you know, importance to me. It's a keeper league that I play with, the other person who co-founded the Lateral, Malcolm, and like all of our friends from the, you know, the tattooed and, you know, nose pierced punks from the music scene back in the day. We have our own thing, and you know, I've had Devontae Adams for the last couple of years, and he's been really helpful for my team. And I'm just like, please don't lose Aaron Rodgers, because I might have to. I'm already facing the complicated decision of the fact that we keep two players, and I have him, Alvin Kamara, and Jonathan Taylor, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do, and it's stressing me out. And like, I'm tempted. Like, if Aaron Rodgers leaves, am I an idiot for throwing Devontae Adams back out into the pool and just rolling with my keepers being Alvin Kamara and Jonathan Taylor? Thoughts?
Pat, you want to go first?
Sure. That's probably the way I'd go if Rodgers is traded rather than the unknown. With, you know, Adams would still be really good, but especially with the relative scarcity at running back, to have two top six guys, you know, boy, I mean, I might even be inclined to go that way, even if Rodgers is back. It's nice problem, first world problems, though, Herms, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, I've been stressing about this ever since the end of the fantasy season, because, like, for the last, like, you know, couple of years or so, it was just like, oh, I'll just roll with Adams and Kamara. That's how I'm going to start my team every year. Boom, no problem. But then, like, I don't know, all this uncertainty. It's just like because I don't have to lock in my keepers until an hour before the draft.
Oh.
So I will just have months of this wonderful first world existential dread to go through. It's going to be great. I'm really, really comfortable with these types of decisions, obviously. But like, oh God, it's terrifying. I don't know. Okay, happy thoughts, happy thoughts, happy thoughts. You know who's a receiver that I think, tying it back to the thing we were talking about before, guys that are kind of like a little lower or whatever that I think like should be talked about a little higher. There was a point in time last year, especially like for more dynasty players, especially because he came into the redraft conversation as well. I mean, like I play dynasty, I enjoy playing dynasty, but redraft is kind of more the thing that we do here. Michael Pittman Jr., like he started to do really well, and the people were like, "Oh man, here it comes!" He's got the bloodline, he's got the opportunity. Like here we go, and then like, for some reason or another, like it just didn't really pan out. And like I remember like toward the end of the year when they faced the Texans twice, and then like T.Y. Hilton had those two monster games, and it was just like, oh, yep, there it goes. Nope, okay, nope, the Pittman hype train, it's over, we're done. Nope, everybody get off here, emergency exit. Like, okay, but what happened, Like, getting Carson Wentz reunited with Frank Reich is a good thing. I get that Carson Wentz had a really ugly 2020, but first of all, who among us didn't? Second of all, like, the offensive line difference between Philadelphia and Indianapolis is about as close to night and day as you're going to get. Like, he will actually have time to make decisions, go through his reads, figure out where he wants to throw the ball. Something he didn't have the luxury of doing at all last year. And of the pass catchers there, like Michael Pittman Jr., probably the best. Now, I also say this speaking out of both sides of my mouth because I'm a huge Paris Campbell believer as well. So I don't really know what I am saying, but like, I don't know, man. I think I have Michael Pittman wide receiver 31 in my initial rankings or whatever that I still have to spruce up and change around before we come out with the official lateral website rankings in the aggregate between the four of us. But Michael Pittman Jr., am I insane?
I feel it's a little high for me for sure. But I don't hate it like at all, because I really do believe in Michael Pittman. I want to say he was definitely up there for me when on my big board for last year in the draft. I was a big fan of him. I thought he shouldn't have fallen out of the first round. Thought that the Eagles should have definitely taken him over Rager, but that's a conversation for another time. And I whenever we talk about Rager, another point. But I don't think it's crazy, Herms, honestly. He's 47 for me, and that's not like a bad 47, honestly. It's I can't fit any guys any more higher because I love pretty much everyone in this wide receiver group this year. So I understand that for sure. And I think you're right. Absolutely. He gets an upgraded quarterback, although Rivers was better, towards the end of the year. But T.Y. Hilton also was better towards the end of the year. It was kind of tough. He also was injured at the beginning of the season. It was a rough rookie season for him, I think, honestly. But I really build in the talent. So if you want to put him that high, I'm fine with it. I'm definitely going to have to rework my rankings too. So we'll see where it ends up. Might be higher than 47.
What are your thoughts, Pat?
Yeah, he's a guy I've had kind of a hard time putting a finger on because I feel like I am a little more confident with where he is than with the other pass catchers are there, because there was a time where it looked like T.Y. Hilton was sort of washed, and then all of a sudden he looked like vintage T.Y. Hilton for a run of a month or 5 or 6 weeks last year. Paris Campbell, like you, I want to like this guy a lot, keeps getting hurt. What is he going to add to the offense? How involved is he going to be if he's fully healthy? So, boy, if thank God I'm too lazy to do projections, because that would be a really hard situation to project. And I think I've got those guys jammed fairly tightly within 12, 13, 14 spots, all of each other. And I think I've got Pittman somewhere around wide receiver 44, maybe just a bit behind Hilton and a little ahead of Campbell.
I dig the vibe. I do. And like, where do I even have T.Y. Hilton? I'm going to be really embarrassed if I check myself in real time and don't even have. Although I will say, last night I was updating my rankings and realized that I had just completely forgotten to put in Ezekiel Elliott in my running backs.
Oh,
So,
no.
I mean, this is the type of person that I am. Okay. Like, look, you know what I mean? Like, normally, like in the past, because like I will be entering year 2 of publicly sharing my thoughts on the internet when it comes to my fantasy football stuff. So, but like, you know, I've been putting together my own rankings and stuff for years at this point because I'm a huge nerd. But like, you know, like it'll happen all the time where I'll look at my list and I'll just be like, this doesn't feel right. What's missing? And then like I'll like cross reference it with like Fantasy Pros ECR or something, and then I'll be like, oh, you dumbass, why don't you, like, what is the matter with you? And it was like last year, I remember when I was going through looking at different stuff and I was just really confused about my rankings, and it was like, oh, Nick Chubb's not on your list, you dingus. And I'm like, but how did I miss that? Like, what am I like? I don't know. Like, I'll get really in the zone and I'll be like, yeah, typing out names, moving them up and down. And then like something will just escape me and I'll be like, this feels really incomplete. Happens all the time. And come to, you know, as it turns out, T.Y. Oh, yes, I have him at wide receiver 45. That feels aggressively low. I think I'm wrong. So I'm just going to say that right now. But yeah, man, dude, the Colts, that's going to be an interesting team. And aren't they raving about, like, I think it was either like a late draft pick or like a UDFA, like some tight end that they brought in, where like some of the coaching staff, you know, they're whispering to each other, being like, Dallas Clark, man, you know, like, oh, gee, like, I kept seeing something about that.
Granson.
Yeah.
Granson, I forget it. Kyle Granson, maybe, that he was kind of a hand-picked Frank Reich guy that, you know, they're excited about as a, you know, a pass catcher. And maybe there's room. I mean, Jack Doyle is pretty much ready to be put out to pasture, I think. And, you know, Mo Ali Cox, I know he's a perennial sleeper, but he hasn't really popped yet. So maybe there's a chance for this guy. I don't know if we see it in year 1, but yeah, there was some buzz about him for sure.
Yeah, Kylan Granson
Kylan,
out of SMU. There we go. Okay, yeah, because we always, anybody who spends any amount of time on fantasy football Twitter will always see like these little blurbs coming out of camps and stuff, starting around this time of year, and just retweeted because the dynasty community is like, oh my god, this guy's getting, but look, make sure at the end of your rookie draft, get this guy. Oh my god, all that, I've already bought a few shares of Jared Dokes just because I was like, I don't know, man, maybe the Miami backfield, who knows? Just I like getting caught up in the hype. It's something that I enjoy doing. I need to stop because clearly, hey, look, I am very transparent about my process and a lot of other things. Like, I drafted Brian Edwards in the 9th round of a redraft league last year because I was that excited about it. I'm being honest. Okay, look, I get it. Was it a terrible idea even at the time? Yeah, of course it was. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie to you. Okay, that's just what I do. I'm a man of full transparency. I like getting excited about these players, and it's just like, oh, it'll be so much fun. But like, how? Come to think of it, yeah. How do you guys manage hype trains? Just like in your own mind, like, are you easily swayed and convinced to be on board with something, or are you the type of people that try to just like keep it as much at arm's length as possible to be like, nope, just like try to keep things objective? Like, I don't know, like Pat, do you ever find yourself getting super caught up in these things, or are you a little more rational than someone like me?
I can. I mean, it does seem this is the time of year when it's easy to fall in love with guys and like get excited about different players. And I mean, if certain people in the fantasy media are excited about a guy, I can very easily be convinced to get excited about a guy. Like, I'm starting to get pretty excited about Trace Sermon, for instance. Just going back and thinking about some of the backs who have been in the Shanahan system, not only Kyle Shanahan, but also Mike, and how good that can look if it's the right back, if it's Terrell Davis, if it's Clinton Portis. And this is a guy they trade up to go get. And, you know, like Raheem Mostert, God bless him, kind of a late bloomer who, you know, nondescript college career at Purdue, was a special teamer his first few years in the NFL. Then they kind of start utilizing his speed, like, hey, we've got something here. This guy's actually pretty good as a running back. But, you know, long term, is he their answer? I don't know. I mean, it just I try not to get too heavy on the coach analysis or whatever, but it just seems like it's such a good fit. And, you know, right now in like these best ball leagues, I was kind of checking the ADPs, and Sermon was like running back 32 in FFPC, running back 40, I believe, in the fan ball best balls. Like committee back price for a guy who, if he pops, could be, you know, very plausibly RB1. So that's one guy, like that's one hype train I'm kind of riding. So yeah, I'm not immune to the hype.
Although this is the part of the program where I have to, out of obligation, mention my love for Jermichael Hasty. There it is. Jesse.
By the way, they've got like 6 guys in that backfield. They also drafted Elijah Mitchell. Like they're going to cut
Wayne Gallman.
Yeah, Wayne Gallman too. There's a lot of guys there.
Right. They could cut someone who walks in and is someone's running back 3. You know, like they're going to have to get rid of someone good at some point. Anyway, sorry, Jesse.
No, you're definitely right about that for sure. That it's going to be interesting. We'll see. But you're right about Sermon. I mean, at least trading up for him there, it looks like they want him for something, and he's someone I got to look into a little bit more for sure. But I think I have the opposite problem, where if I see people getting on like a hype train, especially now when like there's nothing really doing, so this is when it happens. I find myself sometimes going the opposite way, and that is to my detriment. I don't know if this is just me being contrarian because I like being contrarian. But sometimes I have a problem with. I can't really give a good example, I don't think, right now, but I know in the past people have like, there's a guy been a riser, and I've been like, I'm not really on it, and I probably should have been. So I have issues with that. So that's how I handle my anti-hype train stuff.
Oh, so the 3 of us span the entire spectrum of just like, you know, I'm easily duped. You are someone who's just like, nah, not doing it at all. And then we get, well, and you know, even Pat, he admits sometimes, and like, hey, you know, I got it in, you know, kind of something that you mentioned, Pat. You know, it's like if certain people say that they buy in, that's when I'll be like, okay, you have my attention. You know what I mean? Like, there are people in this industry that I trust over other people. You know what I mean? Pat, you're one of them. You know what I mean? Also, like, especially like anytime like Mike Tagliere decides something, I'm just like, okay, all right, I'm listening. Anytime Justin Boone says something, I'm like, okay, you have my attention. What's going on? You know, but like, I remember, I don't know how long ago it was because time is incredibly strange. But I've completely lost my concept of time. Thanks, COVID. But like, oh man, before I jumped onto fantasy Twitter, I spent a lot of time on fantasy football Reddit. Before Darrell Henderson's rookie year, like that hype, like, oh, that got so out of hand. And like, I hopped on the train. Like, you know, a few weeks into it, I was like, okay, I'm starting to see the merits to this. I get it. You know, like, you know, my NFC team of choice is the Washington football team. Like, I know what Sean McVay is all about. I trust him inherently and implicitly. Like, whatever, cool. Like, sure, if he has a plan for this guy, then okay, yeah, Darrell Henderson might be pretty good. But then it got to the point where, like, I saw people being like, yeah, man, you know, I took him at like, you know, like the middle of the 4th round, and I'm just like, whoa. Okay, this is no, I'm off. Nope, you know, like you pull the little rope thing, you know, to make the stop. I'm like, nope, I want to get off. Nope, I'm done. Here, take my ticket. I'm not coming back. Like that one, I think was especially remarkable for something that like it started out so nice, but it got off the rails very, very quickly. That is not a hype. Like, I don't know. Like sometimes, even though I am easily convinced, there are a few instances where it's just like this feels entirely too good to be true at this point. Like, is there anybody now that you already feel like is just like, okay, please stop, we need to get off of this immediately?
Oh man. Well, I was gonna defer to this on Jesse, but I was what I was thinking of was like Jesse is smart to like view these things with a healthy degree of skepticism, because like look at some of the hype trains we've seen leave the station around this time of year in years past. Guys like Kenneth Dixon, Josh Doxson, Paul Richardson. Like people were excited about these dudes, and boy, this year I don't know. Anyone come to mind for you, Jesse?
I was trying to look up real quick because I want to say I'm a lot lower on most people than I am with, and this might be yeah, I definitely am. I'm a decent amount lower on CeeDee Lamb than most people are, I think. I don't know if there's like a hype train going on for him or anything like whatever now, but he's 21. I'm looking at the overall fantasy pros, and I have him 29, so not that much farther down. But I'm wondering if maybe he's someone that's going to be a big riser with Dak coming back. And I understand why people would do that. I think he's in a great spot in the Dallas organization, but I just am not. I wasn't always super impressed with the talent there. And I know he's in a good spot with Dak and all that stuff, but I feel like it's entirely possible it's a Gallup, coming back around. And then obviously Amari Cooper is still like 27 years old or whatever. I don't know how he's that young or whatever, but I think it's possible maybe he's someone who could be a lot lower than people on if there's a hype train, but he's the one that comes to mind. I'm not sure. I usually focus on the iffy stuff. 29. Why is that low or is that high?
No, I mean, I'm not critiquing your stance, but what I am saying is that like we are I have him right now at wide receiver 14.
Yeah, okay, so there we go. There we go.
Woohoo! Because just like, I don't know, man. My whole thing is just like, you see what he did over those first few weeks when, before, Dak only had one ankle. Like, that pace, that was real, man. It was real, man. Although I got to say, even if I'm going to toss water on my own fire, like, effectiveness out of the slot for a massive ceiling isn't really that much of a thing based on, because like I don't know, like my buddy Justin, who I also do stuff with over at 14 Personnel, he published an article a long time ago breaking down like the slot wide receiver upside or whatever, and like finding a dude that could even finish that high primarily running out of the slot is nearly impossible. But hey, I'm buying in anyway because I really like CeeDee Lamb and his name is cool. And remember that catch that he made against the Vikings doing the whole Matrix thing? Like, I don't know, man. I'm a believer, but like there it is. This is a perfect example. You have identified. Look at me, catching your own co-host in the act. So,
well, I mean, I could bring up the obvious one. That's Justin Herbert, but I don't want to go into it every podcast, so we don't have to. But that's obviously the biggest one.
Oh man, you love doing that, don't you?
I do, because it's the truth. People need to hear it. I don't know if you're aware, Pat, but I'm just not a fan of Justin Herbert. He's my quarterback 15. So.
Interesting. So yeah, I mentioned before that I had him below Rodgers and below Jalen Hurts, and I think that's pretty. Like I'm seeing him around QB7 pretty consistently, and I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's just like I like what I've seen so far, but like the YPA isn't great. Like it wasn't great last year. I wonder if he's going to have a harder go round the second season. Mm-hmm. It wouldn't surprise me at all if you were vindicated on that and he was out in the top 10.
This is the first time we've gotten that, so I'm glad I did bring it up. Damn, all right, awesome. I'm into it.
Yeah. I mean, like really toolsy dude, but like I mean,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
His last year at Oregon, he went against my team, Wisconsin, in the Rose Bowl. Yeah, he wound up beating us with his running in that game. He didn't worry me as a passer at all in that game, and that was against a college defense. Like I wasn't at all worried about him beating us with his arm. It just didn't seem like he was, very accurate or effective downfield that day. And yeah, we'll see. I mean, like he did have some just, jaw-dropping moments. The game he had in Tampa where he almost, beat Tom Brady on the road. Had a couple of big touchdown passes, big numbers in that game. He had his moments for sure, but I kind of want to see it for another year. I don't think I'm going to have a lot of him in redraft myself this year.
Mm.
I've got
Yeah, I
some
worry
fun
about-
numbers if you're interested, Jesse, because
Yeah,
I have
course.
him lower now than I did before, because you've got the skepticism running in my head, too.
It's good to see.
And so I looked at it, right? So the big part of what really helped Herbert air it out and ball hard and do all that was the fact that like Eckler got hurt, right? So I went through and I looked at a bunch of the numbers and stuff, and I have it separated from like weeks 5 through 11 or whatever, like without Eckler, and then his numbers from when Eckler came back and all that. So here it is. Boom. He averaged 26.95 points per game between week 5 and week 11 last year, and was the QB2 in that stretch. And then I think this is 4 point per passing touchdown for what it's worth. And then 12 through 16 with Eckler, he was the QB 17, and that dropped down in his points per game from the 26.95 to 17.04. So that's something, because think about it. Like when Eckler comes back, I mean, he's a very skilled receiving back. So, I mean, like, those dump offs, you know what I mean? You're not going to get these, big, like 30-yard launches down the field to your running back. That's typically not how things work. I mean, I pull it off in Madden all the time, but that's also Madden. So, and like it really, that's kind of what helped him a lot last year was just like, and the reason he ended up winning like Rookie of the Year and all that was just because like he had that stretch of just like bombs. And it was like, it was incredibly, impressive. But like once like Eckler came back, it was just, it kind of stopped being a thing. And I almost said Kamara, which actually would have been an interesting Freudian slip, because I'm pretty sure the dude in charge of the offense now, Joe Lombardi or whatever, coming over from the New Orleans thing. So it's just like, boom, check it out. There it is, tie-in. My brain is telling me to say that for a reason. So like, I still don't know what the offense is going to look. Okay, I mean, I have an idea as to what the offense is going to look like, but even then, like Joe Lombardi, like the one shot that he had at, running the show was like, it was a small stretch in Detroit back in the day, and that offense was not particularly glamorous. And, he had a pretty damn good quarterback to work with at the time, who is now also in Los Angeles. Boom, segue, Matthew Stafford. Buy into Matthew Stafford. I have him very high. But yeah, that was a weird aside. Either way, like, yeah, it'll be interesting because I feel like them bringing in Jared Cook was a good idea. So that way there's a little bit of continuity because, Lombardi's already familiar with that guy, this, that, the other. But like, yeah, dude, I don't know. Like, yeah, Justin Herbert, very talented. But like because I don't know if I said it already, I think I did, but I'm going to repeat myself. Yeah, QB 10. I have him sandwiched between Ryan Tannehill and Tom Brady. I will also just because I have it in front of me right now, I'm just going to say it. Aaron Rodgers, I currently have QB 12, but that's only because I'm just like I have him there because I don't know where he's going to play. But yeah, like just that's kind of I'm a little lower on Herbert at this point too. So like. More and more people are purchasing real estate on this island. Okay. It's going to be a cool resort one of these days, man. We're going to get like one of those big water slides, that has all the twists and stuff and throws you into the ocean. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be like Sandals, Jamaica. Like, yeah, it'll be super tight.
Dope, yeah. I just generally also worry about people buying in way too hard about a guy with just 1 year production under his belt. And that really bothers me. There are a lot of great quarterbacks. I'm just saying, I don't know if people should be surprised if Matt Ryan has a better year than Justin Herbert, because we just have seen more of Matt Ryan and he has a great situation and all that stuff. It just, I'm just not willing to buy into the first year stuff with a new coach where he's been totally inaccurate in certain parts of his college career. And, I won't bring up that New England game too much, but man, that's something that we saw that was real bad. And if we remember Baker from like 3 years ago, he had one of the best rookie seasons that we've ever seen before. And now what is he like going like past QB 20? It's entirely possible these guys change after the rookie year. When they get more film, teams get more film on them, stuff changes, coordinators change. It's just a real possibility that I am scared of. So just want to throw that out there.
No, I feel you, bro. But but hey, I mean, that's why we start, doing this early. That's why we start putting together our rankings and all these feelings early. But it's important to consider all of these things, especially like the 1 year under the belt and smaller sample. Okay, he has somewhat of a small sample size, but there is a guy who has an even smaller sample size that has me really worried. Cam Akers, I presently have outside of my top 12, I have him as my RB 15 because I'm just like, bruh, like I no, like you can't convince me based off of like 5 games, my dude. Especially since like the one where he really went off, I think against New England or whatever, like that really inflated a lot of like the like the points per game averages and stuff that people are looking at. Because if we're going to extrapolate and put that over a full 16, or I guess 17, new schedule, like I can't quite get there with the Cam Akers thing. So I will join you on your Herbert Island and will extend you an invitation onto my Cam Akers Island, not that far, a few miles down the water. So if you want to hop in the kayak, it'll be fine. We got little, like the half coconuts, with the little straws and the little, the fun little, what are they called? Umbrella things, it'll be great. Little like pineapple wedges. I don't know. I felt like that was something that I wanted to mention, but at the end of the day, that could be a mistake on my part. I don't know. How do you generally avoid making mistakes? I guess like what would be the one big tip, or just like I don't know, maybe not one, like I guess like 2 or 3 things, Pat, if you were to tell people like please avoid doing this if you want to make sure that your ranks are good.
All right, so one thing I guess would be I try not to overread projections based on what a situation looks like. And I guess this gets back to what we're talking about with like the Mike Davis, Javian Hawkins thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think you could look at that and say, oh, with this sort of vacancy, like Mike Davis is going to be a top 20 back. And I just don't think he's that extraordinary a talent. I mean, he did ball out for a while after McCaffrey went down last year for the Panthers, but then he also kind of hit a wall after like maybe the first 5 weeks or so. And like the performance kind of plateaued a little bit. I just don't know if he could sustain that sort of production that he had in the first month after the McCaffrey injury for a full season as the lead guy on a different team. I'm not ready to project Amon-Ra St. Brown as a top 40 wide receiver just because there are a lot of targets to go around. I mean, I think those could easily swing in a way we're not expecting more for Brashad Perryman or Tyrell Williams or Quintez Cephas.
Yeah.
Or that could be the rare situation where the tight end leads the team in targets. So I guess I'm a little wary of like looking at situations. Oh, there aren't enough balls to go around in this offense, or someone has to eat in this offense. I think it's going to be this guy. Like I'm still kind of a believer in the talent. Maybe Jesse can get on board with this since he mentioned that he's a film guy. Like kind of believe what you see and not necessarily what you think the projections are going to be. If you're forced to do projections, you might force yourself into like some awkward leaps of faith in guys like Mike Davis and, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who hasn't played a down in the NFL yet.
Yeah. It is tough. And I do have also a problem with what you were saying. I think I do sometimes think if, there are a lot of mouths to feed or there aren't that many, or, someone's got to catch the ball. I do fall into that trap a lot. And I will say I am kind of high on Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think, the film was there for me for him. So that's kind of funny. And I also don't hate Jared Goff. I feel like he could produce, he has done it in the past. I know it was a big myth McVay, and I know people, it sucks that he's going to Detroit, but I don't know. I feel like, he's done it in the past, and maybe he could do it again. And I'm only taking a chance because, those guys are going for pretty much next to nothing, and I am taking wide receiver late. But, it's another conversation for another day. I just think ranks are, if we're talking about that stuff, I think they're, a good tool to use, but they're not everything. I don't think that we get there, right? Like, I just remember one of those scenes from like The League back in the day where he was like, one of the guys, the main characters, like season 1, like called up and was like, "Who do you have ranked higher? Like, I need to know which one is it." Like, they're just giving him like, the advice, be like, "Oh, we think this guy could go off. He's a high ceiling, high floor, this week," and all that stuff, or just generally. But like, he's just like, "I need to know the rank." So I think, one of the things that we should realize is that ranks are really important, and it's super good to do, super important. But it's not everything. It's you have to min max and consider like, oh, hey, maybe this guy's gonna be really good at some point. or maybe not, and it's not just like where he's in the ranking sheet. Does that make sense? Does that track?
Yeah,
Kind of. Okay.
it definitely does, especially because like that's why I like to make tiered rankings as opposed to like because like people who just do like straight 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm like, okay, well that I mean like it's helpful, but like and even if you don't explicitly like mark so like in the like sheets of you know uh, virtual documents that I make because I don't write any of this out by hand. I don't know why I needed to say that, but I did anyway. So, haha. Like, yeah, like I will clearly mark. I will just like pound like the little dash button or whatever, just like boop, 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 like, and I will like visually separate where I have that in my mind. But like, even if you don't like do that for yourself, just like at least somewhere in the back of your head, just be like, okay, this like once we get past this player or whatever, there is about to be a stretch of people where like the difference is negligible. And if I quote unquote reach on a guy that I have maybe 3 spots lower than this other guy, I'm not an idiot for having done so. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Sure. Yeah.
Like
Maybe something like that. Yeah, for sure.
I dig that vibe. I dig that vibe.
I am also curious, Pat, where you're at with Cam Akers, because I do also have him lower, but I'm willing to be convinced.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. And to what Herms was saying, I mean, the games he did well in were like these high profile things, like, running rampant over the Patriots in a standalone Thursday night game. And who doesn't like to see the Patriots get trampled? The playoffs, I mean, he did save some of his best games for the playoffs. So, I know he had a great game against Green Bay. So, understandably, people weigh a lot into that. But yeah, there were a lot of pretty pedestrian games during the regular season. It took him a while to clearly surpass Malcolm Brown and Darrell Henderson, the aforementioned Darrell Henderson. So yeah, I mean, I kind of think DeAndre Swift is a better back. I don't really see that much of a gap between Akers and J.K. Dobbins, even though I think Akers might have a little more touch upside, I guess, because there isn't really a Gus Edwards there. It seems like the Rams are more willing to go with a workhorse back. But yeah, I think for me, he's maybe running back 11 right now. So maybe I'm not quite as low as you guys, and I did inch him up. I think like in my first pass at 2021 rankings way back in like February, I think he was down at like 14 or 15, but I've inched him up a little bit. But yeah, I know there are a lot of people who want to put him like running back 7 or something like that. And I'm not there.
Yeah, because at that point, like the phrase that always comes up at that point is like, buying at the ceiling, which is not a thing that I typically like to do unless if I'm buying a share of Travis Kelce or something like that at the ceiling, like, okay, fine, because on a like if we're to use the whole like, relativity thing and like positional scarcity, blah blah blah. Okay, like yeah, it certainly stands to reason at that point that you should do that. But when it comes to like the running back position, especially, like we get really excited about certain players and then we, like box ourselves into these traps where it's just like, I don't know, man. And I saw the same thing happen last year with a lot of people being ridiculously high. And I'm not saying that like this isn't apples for apples, but like the whole Kenyon Drake thing, I was just like, okay, some of you people got to pump the brakes here a little bit. All right. Like this is not, and I did the same thing. Like when I was looking through, we did an article really early on with the lateral looking at, I think we called it like shit. It was like boom, bust, and then there was like a third category, just like making predictions about like specific players. And like the one, like my bust guide or whatever was Kenyon Drake, because at the ADP that he was going at the time, I was just like, bro, if you like, he had one like super like hyper efficient game in 2019 after joining Arizona, And I was like, okay, if you take that out and like, because it was clearly an outlier, like I'm not the type of person to be like, well, if you remove this, that, and this, then it'll look like this. Cause if you're going to, completely, like carve up and turn something into something that fits your narrative, then you're not doing it genuinely. But like looking at his game log after he joined the team, it was very clear there was one game that was just like ridiculous. So I took it out and then averaged it out, his points per game, like from that shit. And I was like, okay, well, he was really only averaging maybe, and I'm just like spitting out a number here. I don't have it in front of me, but it was like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 points per game lower if we were to have taken out that one like boom game. And I was just like, okay, well, if we're going to project for him to be that type of player, then people are taking him like 3 rounds like too soon, or maybe 2 rounds too soon or something. And like all the signs just pointed it to being like too good to be true. So like, it's not quite the same, I would say, with Cam Akers, because I think he is a better player than Kenyon Drake, and he's also significantly younger. But like, it's just one of those things, man. You can't buy at the ceiling, especially with the running backs, dude. Like, you can't do that to yourself, because like you have to be certain without a shred of doubt that it's going to work, or else you are not going to be happy with what you get out of it. And like, I can't do that to myself. You know what I mean? Like you have to find approximate relative value in every single range that you pick from. And it's just like, I can't see it if people are going to put Akers that high at like RB6, RB7 or something like that. Like, I just can't do it. Like, can he finish there? Sure. But am I going to say right now on May 16th that this is going to happen? Hell no. No, get me off of that. I want no part of this. It's just, it feels gross. Ugh, I had to get that out again. I had to get that out for a second time. Just it's very important to me that I warn the public. Just like, don't, like, I'm not saying he's bad, but just like, oh God, like, pump the brakes, man. Like, save yourself.
Yeah, I won't be getting any part of him. It doesn't look like this year. So whatever. They're just guys, I just won't get a part of this year, which is totally fine by me. And he's one of those guys for sure.
I always sketch that up mentally ahead of time. You know what I mean? Like, come like late July, early August, I have a pretty good idea. I'm just like, yep, that person is not going to be on any of my teams, and I'm perfectly okay with it. Not an indictment on them, but if the value is just not there, the value is not there. And just like on any of my redraft teams this year, I know that my tight end will not be Kyle Pitts.
Yeah,
I know that right now.
Yeah. He's a tough one too, I think. But yeah, he's the guy I'm also not going to get. But whatever, I'll deal with it. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, we're running past like the hour 15 mark, but if we wanted to wrap up on that because it's topical, Kyle Pitts, what are we doing? Because I don't know.
Pat, why don't you go ahead? Because I feel like I'm also going to be a downer on him. So why don't you break us up a little bit, maybe?
Yeah, so I've got him like tight end 7 for redraft. I mean, I'm certainly much higher on him in Dynasty. I think I've got him 3 behind Kelsey and Kittle, and like I think he could be the tight end 1 by next year with another year of tread on Kelsey. And if Kittle can't get through another season without some sort of injury, so. But yeah, I mean, at redraft, like there is always the perennial disappointment, it seems like, for rookie tight ends. Granted, he's an extraordinary specimen, the bigger reach than Calvin Johnson had, the, pretty sterling record of achievement at Florida, the great measurables. I think I could get a little more excited about him if the Falcons were to make some sort of move with Julio Jones. Then I think like you would maybe have to consider sticking him top 5, maybe tight end 5 or whatever. But yeah, as of now, I mean, I like Mark Andrews more. I like Hawkinson more. I think I like Noah Fant a little bit more. And I'm like, right. I think I kind of wavered between Goddard's and Pitts at 7 and 8. That's kind of a virtual tie for me. I think I've got Pitts a little higher than Goddard's, and maybe that's the wrong call. But so yeah, I mean, I'm enthusiastic for sure, but I agree. I think in every league, every redraft league, someone is going to take him way too high.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's
mhm.
like you guys said, sometimes you just have to be okay with knowing you're not going to get a guy. You know, if he comes in and has a 1,200-yard season straight off the bat, hey, I missed on that one, but you can live with yourself. But if he comes in and someone takes him in the 4th round and he goes for 400 yards and 5 TDs, like, you know, you're going to be pretty happy that you let that guy make that mistake.
Yeah, I think he is something pretty rare. He offers a ridiculous upside at the tight end position, which we really don't get. Tight end is pretty crap outside of the top 2, maybe 3. So I think there is an attractiveness there that makes people want to reach for him, which I totally get because tight end is total trash. He is 9 for me. He's right behind Gesicki. I don't know if I'll live to eat those words, but I have to be a little cautious on a guy who is a first-year tight end that I know is a different prospect. Like, I watched a lot of film on him. I think he's really good. I'm not saying he's not very good. I just think there is always, always, always going to be a transitionary period for a rookie tight end. And I don't know how he'll handle it. I don't know how much time he'll be playing on tight end. If he's not playing, you know, in line a lot, like he's lined up in the slot or he's lined up outside or whatever like that, that will definitely help him. And also he's on a really good team with a really good quarterback. We don't see that for guys drafted in like the top 5 too often, in the top 5 too often. So it is definitely attractive and I get it, but he, like we said, he's a guy I'm just going to miss out on because the downside is a ridiculous downside. And you're right. We'll probably see him at like round 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. And I'm just definitely not comfortable taking it there. I'll either grab like Kelsey or Kittle because I still believe in both, but you're right. Kittle is getting older. I'm sorry. Kelsey is getting a lot older and Kittle, we'll see with the injuries, but if I'm not getting them, I'll probably just wait until I get into the lower part because there's just so much downside with these guys. And there aren't really guys, at least in recent memory, that have transcended above that too much. So I'm just not willing to do it with Pitts even.
Yeah, man, because like the last time we saw a rookie tight end ball out like that was when Evan Ingram saw OBJ and Brandon Marshall go down. You know what I mean? Like, it would, like, okay, so there are 2 ways that it can really happen for Kyle Pitts. Either he is just insanely talented right off the bat, and it's just like, it is what it is. He's a unicorn, blah, blah, blah. I'm very open to that possibility. Like, sure. But the other case would be like Julio not being on the team, whether it's through being on another team or simply being hurt, and then also something potentially happening to Calvin Ridley that takes him out for an extended period of time. And then it's like, hey, Kyle, here you go. Here's the volume. Let's go, baby. Because of it, like, that's, you know, it's just, it's hard to, oh God, I don't know, because like he's also really good. Like, it's just, oh my God, like, I don't know. And also, like, Hayden Hurst still exists, so I feel like that's another thing that people seem to conveniently forget. Like, he was pretty good.
He was a top 12 guy. I think he was more of a compiler, but sure, you're absolutely right. He was there. He still is there for sure. And I like Hayden Hurst. So
I mean, you know,
yeah.
like I don't really have a feel for Kyle Pitts, the blocker. So, I mean, like, that could be less time on the field, potentially. I don't know. We'll see how more of that shakes out as time goes along. But, yeah, I don't know. That was a thing that felt like needed to be said. So, there it is. And this is the part of the show where I eloquently transition into the end of it. So, yeah, boom, there it is. That's the ending of the show, kind of. But I have to say things before we leave, including you can follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL. I do a bunch of stuff. If you're interested in that stuff, follow me on Twitter at HermsNFL. Boom, there it is. Jesse, tell people about you again in case they didn't see it at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm Jesse. Twitter handle is at Baking Games Jesse. I do my own stuff, Baking Games Fantasy Sports, Baking Games Sports, got a website and all that stuff. But then I do this bilateral, and it's super fun. I have a great time with great guests, a great host, and I'm really thankful for all this. It's been a lot of fun. Pat, what's up?
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me, Herms and Jesse. This has been fun. Really good to talk to you guys. Hope we'll get to do it again soon. And you can find me on Twitter at Fitz_FF. And you can find my rankings at thefootballgirl.com and my podcast, wherever podcasts are found. It's Fitz on Fantasy. So thanks again, guys.
It's one of my favorite podcasts. Oh God! Like, oh man, I was so excited for this show. I was like, yeah. man. Oh, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. Oh,
Yeah,
Josh, I'm gonna go
yeah,
eat pizza.
guys.
This is gonna be fantastic. And I feel great.
True.
So, without further ado, I have a kazoo.
This is new.